is going to be a grand slam home run.
Swing and drive. Belton right. Welcome to the show.
Here is Justice Bigbie, outfield prospect in the Detroit Tigers system, who, for my money, is the breakout guy in this system. I mean, it's been unbelievable to see what you've done this year, Justice. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
So I got to just start with this and the congratulations I gave you before we hit record, but I got to say it again. Like, dude, this year's been unbelievable to monitor. I mean, every time, I think you're going to slow down, like just by human nature, right? Like, how can a guy keep up this pace? You put together 4 hits again, and you just continue to have these multi-hit games and be as consistent as possible, but also while keeping the strikeouts down, while handling a promotion up to Double-A and just not stopping there. How has this year been for you? And just on the emotional side, like how fun has it been to have everything kind of clicking for you on just a different level in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, this year's been great. I mean, really, getting up to Double-A and playing with these guys up here is, it's been really fun. I mean, obviously, I've had a good year, so that makes it even more fun. But I mean, you said it. I mean, trying to be consistent. I think that's the key to this game. And if you want to continue to improve, is be consistent. And you can't really control too much of the results. But I think staying consistent in your routine and everything is I think the key.
You mentioned not being able to control the results, but you look at, last year, I think over the course of the entire season, finished with an OPS right around 727, solid numbers. But this year, I mean, 971, and that's between high A and Double-A. Last year was between mostly low A and high A. Really tough place to hit in the Florida State League, which is important to note. And the ball, it's a graveyard out there. And I know you like to spray the ball to all fields, and that's something we're going to talk about, your ability to go the other way. But what has really allowed you to kick things into a different gear this year? Of course, 17 home runs is a lot more than 3. Of course, Florida State League, tough to play in. But just regardless, you look across the slash line, you're hitting 353, dude. Like, what is clicked this year for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that, I guess, looking back, I guess, to last year. I mean, and I've answered this question before, kind of like I've felt like the last, month to month and a half of last year, maybe I would even maybe say 2 months of last year, a little bit before I got moved up to West Michigan. And then once I got up to West Michigan, I was feeling really good at the plate then. I mean, I had felt kind of my power clicking a little bit more. I had felt my swing clicking a little bit more than it had in earlier part of the year. And like you said, I mean, the Florida State League is definitely a tough place to put up some home runs. And, I could definitely feel it a little bit better. I was seeing the ball better. I was, being able to pull the ball a little bit better, get some more lift on the ball. And I could definitely feel it then. And I was able to, kind of carry that momentum, even though we had an off season, in between, but carry that momentum into spring training and, really carry it into the off season and really work on what felt well and, improve on that,
What's really interesting is, usually it's that, okay, I have an off season to tinker and, controlled setting where I'm not worried about results as much. And that's where things click. But you mentioned that it was kind of in that latter couple weeks of the season. What changed for you, while you're playing there down the stretch when, to be honest, a lot of guys kind of check out a little bit and go through the motions a bit at the end, especially when it's just one of those long years. And I wouldn't blame you for doing so, given that you're playing in the heat in the Florida State League up until the last week and a half there when you got the bump up to West Michigan. What was it that you found maybe mechanically over those last couple weeks, or was it a mental, little aspect to it, or an approach thing that really allowed you to find that comfort over the last handful of games?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously it's tough, getting into the September, late August, September down in Florida. It's definitely tough. I mean, with that heat. But I think really, focusing on that one day at a time aspect. And I think, really getting some of my confidence, cause, so you kind of go, most of the year without, really feeling like you could drive the ball, and I did a decent job in college with it, but then, it kind of goes away and, you kind of lose that confidence of like, how am I going to get this? How am I going to get this? And then once you see it a couple times, you're like, okay, there it is. I can do it. I can, that's something that, I think helped me a lot, was that confidence aspect of it, of, getting moved up to West Michigan and then, having some success, even though it was very, very short period of time, having some success and being like, I can, seeing the ball drive. And, I only had one home run, but I had some doubles, and I could feel even, my fly balls and line outs and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm very close. I can feel it.
Yeah, I mean, in those 9 games at West Michigan, you slashed 387, 441, 613. That's 12 hits and 5 extra base hits, as you mentioned, in that span. I mean, that'll absolutely play, and that sends you on a positive note into the off season, and you continue to work. And of course, that has led to phenomenal results through the majority of this season, where in these 98 games so far, you've got that 971 OPS. What was your focus in the off season other than maintaining that momentum to, again, kind of hit things into another gear and get yourself prepared for a season where you figured, this is going to be the big test, right? You're going to get to AA eventually, start in high A, and hopefully get to AA. That seems to be the equalizer usually with hitters, and specifically kind of that test to see where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I knew going into the off season, talking with some of the obviously all of the hitting coordinators, Kenny Graham, Max Gordon, Jeff Branson, all those guys, they, they were extremely helpful. I mean, extremely helpful. Because, all of them kind of said, look, just, we would like to see you improve on, your power and your pull side power. I think that's going to help you improve a lot and kind of move you a little bit better. And I think that I kind of, took to heart. And I mean, that was something that I really, really wanted to improve on. I wanted to pull the ball in the air with power and, continue to use my, right field approach, in kind of my middle of the field approach, but add that to my game. And I think that was very, they made that very obvious to me as to something that I can improve on. And I really, that was something that I took into the off season and really, really worked, as hard as I could, really to improve on that.
Some of the slight changes, and it's just from what I'm able to see, it looked like you've been a bit more stacked on your backside as you set up. And I'm interested to talk about your timing mechanism as well, because sometimes it looks like you got a little bit more of that gathering leg kick. Other times it's more of a toe tap. It seemed, depending on, how quick a guy is to home plate. We'll start with being stacked on the backside. Is that a fair takeaway? Are you a little bit more stacked on that backside before you start? And, what is that? What is the goal of that as a hitter, I guess?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a fair takeaway. I mean, that's something, I think that was a small tweak in my lower half. I wouldn't say part of my swing, per se, upper half body, but definitely my lower half. That was something that I wanted to improve on and to kind of get back onto that backside and really use my legs. I think I was, going back to last year, I think I was collapsing a little bit on my front side, which was causing me to get a little pushy with my hands. And I think that getting a little bit more stacked on my backside and into, kind of into my hip a little bit, I was able to create some of that lift without changing the swing per se. And I think that's something that I really, really wanted to improve in the off season.
And you absolutely have. And what's interesting is you talk about the pull side power and being able to kind of tap into that a bit more and have that be a part of your game. And you've done that. But what stands out to me is that you've leveraged the strength even further now, I feel like, because you mentioned a pushy swing, maybe, or getting a little bit forward with your body. It's very hard to hit the ball anywhere with authority that way, but even the other way as well. Now you're able to kind of let the ball get deeper and hit it with even more authority the other way. And some of these home runs, Oppo, are shots. And that's the interesting thing to me is you're still leaning into that ability to drive the ball the other way. That seems to just kind of be your MO, but elevating that while also improving upon something that was a focus for you going pull side. How have you been able to balance that? Because it's one thing to improve your pull side power, but sometimes that can maybe come at expense of using the whole field. You've improved pull side, but you're still really leaning into the strength of going the other way. 12 of 17 of your home runs have been to the opposite field.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I think that's something that I wanted to stay consistent at. I mean, that's one of the strengths of my swing. And I think, improving your strengths and also improving your weaknesses. I think, obviously a lot of times I think some people can get too focused on your weaknesses, and then you end up kind of losing, and then losing what you do well, So I think especially in the game of baseball where, you can find yourself struggling. I think being able to go back to that strength and being like, hey, this is what I do well. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to, try to get some, try to get some results back this way when you're struggling. I think that's something that can really, that has helped me out at least, especially.
The interesting thing too, beyond the power that you've been able to add here, is that you're also just mentioned the jump in batting average, but even beneath the hood, the numbers beneath the hood are incredibly encouraging in the contact department in terms of cutting that strikeout rate down to what's been under 15% this year after hovering in the low 20% range last year. And then just looking at some advanced data, like in zone whiff on fastballs is nearly cut in half. What has allowed you to make so much more consistent contact while also leveraging more power?
Yeah, I think, I think at least for me, being, like you said, the fastball, I want to, be ready for that pitch in the heart. I think a lot of guys, I mean, especially in pro ball, the fastball, I mean, that's a lot of people's, pitch, the fastball command, and being able to, hit that pitch at higher velocities, was something that's another part of my game that I wanted to improve on is, once I made, once I got drafted from Western, I think, I don't want to say that I wasn't ready, but it was definitely a big jump in, velocity wise, coming from Western, and, the first pro season, really getting a taste of the professional game and the pitchers and what they have and their stuff and their velocities. And I think that was something that, going into the off season, I knew I needed to improve on is hitting the velocity. I mean, that's, you watch a MLB game tonight, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see high velocity. And that's something, that's a big part of my game that I wanted to improve.
So how were you able to do that? Because it's one thing to just say, oh, I'm ready for the fastball, but when it comes in at 98, it's hard to stay ready. Was starting a little bit more pre-stacked? Did that kind of aid the process, or were there some other tweaks that allowed you to just be more on time and be ready for the hard stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I guess going back to the offseason, I used the machine at high velocity. I mean, that was I kind of sat down and thought to myself for what that time I was taking off in the beginning of the offseason. I was like, I kind of thought of how I wanted to improve on this and how I wanted to go about figuring it out. And I think using the machine, I was able to slowly ramp up throughout the off season and towards spring training get to super high velocity to where maybe I'm not killing it and I'm not smoking the ball in the gaps in the cages, but I'm consistently getting the barrel to that pitch, and I think that kind of helped me, like you said, get into my backside a little bit and tinker with my swing a little bit and figure out what's the best way that my body can move to get to this pitch and to hit this pitch with authority.
And you've been doing just that. I mean, this year it's been really impressive to see what you've done against fastballs. I don't know if you know what your numbers are against specifically four seamers, but you're hitting over 400 against four seamers. So that'll play. That'll tend to work. And it sounds like just getting the reps seem to be the way to do that, right? Just cranking it up and really exposing it. It's people tend to tell me that the machine can kind of expose some inefficiencies more than almost anything else. Do you feel like that's the case?
Absolutely. I mean, in college, I wasn't a big machine guy. I mean, in high school, I never hit off the machine, and I get to college, and it was kind of a rude awakening with the machine. They cranked it up to, as pretty much as fast as it would go, and the ball's shooting out and going two seams, cutters, sinkers. You're getting everything, and it seems almost unfair. It seems like extremely hard, but that was the good part. I mean, that trained me to. And I think another aspect of that machine is just getting the barrel to the ball. I think that's, when you have a machine, shooting out, bunch of different pitches, consistently getting the barrel to the ball. It trains your eyes and trains everything that you do, hitting. And I think that was something that improved as well.
You talk about the jump from Western Carolina to, the big or to professional baseball. That is one heck of a jump, but also there's some good baseball and people don't realize it, between what you played against in that conference. And then of course, in the Northwoods for multiple years where you put up really good numbers there. When you got to Western Carolina, they were kind of in a transitional phase, right? That freshman year for you, or that first season, it was not the best, I think, performance-wise in terms of the record, but you got an opportunity to play right away and built on that. And then you look at your 4-year career. I mean, the numbers just got better and better and better. Did you think that you had a chance coming out in 2020? Of course, if the season had not gotten canceled, based on what you did, because for a little bit of background for the listeners, I mean, after your freshman year where you put up really solid numbers, and I mean, you had to be one of the best contributors on your ball club. You go to the Northwoods League, go perform out there and probably learn a lot of things out there. And then you come back for that sophomore season and go nuclear, OPS over 1,000, 12 home runs, and then perform really, really well in the Northwoods League in 68 games. I mean, you played a full campaign that year. I mean, that was, what was it, 130, 140 games? Was that in preparation for potentially you coming out in the 2020 draft if you had a full season, or were you just trying to get as many at bats as possible? Because I haven't seen a workload like that in a while.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely it was a very good year, but it was a very tough year as well. Trying to figure out, my freshman year of college was. That was the first year I had ever played baseball year round. I played football in high school. So that was the first year I had played baseball year round. And then that second year I make the jump to, like you said, 100 and, whatever games that would be. And I think when I got to the Northwoods, our manager, Donnie Scott, who I got to know pretty well, has managed all, been around Joey Votto, managed Pete Alonso, some very, very good baseball players, and just kind of learning the game from him, as well as, my, Coach Miranda at Western. Those two definitely helped me in the sense of, how to go about playing, that many games and how to, take care of your body, but when to push your body. And, it's definitely something that I think was very beneficial for me, especially come this time of the year, in professional baseball. I mean, it's a grind, and it's being able to show up to the field, with that same energy and that same, fire and ready to play every day is something that, I learned from, those two coaches as well. They really, really helped me out.
So where did that have you in your headspace in terms of where you thought you could potentially go? Like, did you think that the draft was an option in 20 at that point, given what you had done both in your sophomore season and then, in the Northwoods? Had the season not gotten, banged, of course, because of COVID, did you feel like that there was a chance that you could have went out that year, and where were you at in your headspace at that point? Because I know a lot of people were considering maybe undrafted opportunities, or, whether they go back to school. Like, what was that whole process like for you?
Yeah. I mean, obviously in 20, with the shortened season and in the COVID season and everything, but going into the season, I had no idea. I really was like, I don't really know quite how this works, or, what I need to do. And I think what was really helping for me was just like going out there and trying to put that to the side as much as I could. Go, I guess, in the 2020 year, and it was definitely, it was a new thing for me. I wasn't, I didn't really know, quite how to go about, all of that. And I wasn't really sure, if I was going to get drafted, if I wasn't going to get drafted, but then obviously 2020 gets canceled and we get pushed, and, I didn't have the best year. Let's start, I guess, the 18-19 games, or, whatever it would be. But then, obviously the draft was shortened, and, had a lot of conversation between the free agent route and going back to school, and, kind of, that was definitely an interesting time. The world shut down, and you're trying to decide if you want to go play professional baseball. It was definitely a weird time, but I think it definitely worked out, and I went from there.
I mean, you made the best decision you possibly could have. You go back to school, you hit nearly 400 in that final season there. You put up an 1121 OPS, and then end up getting selected there in the 19th round, which was really awesome, because there's a guy that was selected in the 19th round by the Tigers as well, who is doing quite some exciting things at the big league level, in Kerry Carpenter. But this must have been a really cool moment for you, given the whole process of, not really knowing, having to make that decision on your future when it seemed like there was no future in our world at that point. Like, the whole world had stopped. And to your point, you have to make this decision on the rest of your career, and have it go the right way, and know that you bet on yourself in the right way. Looking back on that whole process, how much do you think that gave you confidence in just believing in yourself? Because, again, I think it's easy to say, oh, I'll just go into pro ball and get my foot in the door. And that's a side of it that I totally understand as well. We just had David Schneider on from the Blue Jays, and he's like, yeah, I would have signed for free. I would have done it. I just wanted to get in the door. And I get that perspective too. I think those are both different angles of confidence that I really appreciate. How much confidence did you have going into that last year? And how much does that give you now moving forward, just knowing that, hey, I bet on myself, it worked, and you just continue to progress in a really awesome way?
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's definitely two ways to look at it. I mean, I obviously I looked at it from both ways at that time. In 2020, I looked at it, whether I was going to go back to school, or, it was definitely a tough decision. And I, prayed about it, and, I think, God definitely moved me in the right direction. I think, that was one of the bigger decisions that I've had to make in my life. And I think, it's definitely, a tough decision, but I think, I'm very grateful to, be able to go back to school, and it worked out well. I had a good year, and very thankful, and, an unbelievable moment that the Tigers were able to take a chance on me in the 19th. So, I mean, I can't be, any more thankful and grateful to them for doing that.
Yeah, that was my last question before I was going to get into some defensive talk. Is, did you have any idea how that draft was going to go? We talk about just, okay, this was a little bit more of a calming situation, given that you hit 400 nearly and put up big numbers, and you knew you were going to get a pro opportunity. But did you really have any idea how it would unfold, and where you could go, and how things might wind up?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, I didn't quite know, whether, if I would go or when I would go. I didn't really have a great idea. I definitely knew I wanted to play, and I wanted to, whether I got drafted or a free agent opportunity arose. I think, that was definitely something that was in the mix. And I, definitely, once I got drafted, it was very exciting, and, able to go from there.
Yeah. Awesome, man. And since then, your first pro season, you play mostly first base, and then now you've been playing predominantly outfield, and that's a bit of a transition, which is something that I know you have to put a lot of work into, and something that doesn't come easy. You split time between left and right, seeing a little bit more action in left. How's that process been going for you in terms of developing as an outfielder, and what's the work been like?
Yeah. I played obviously that first, first year and a half, I guess not really half, but, year at first base. And then, predominantly, like you said, outfield, this year. So I think, it's definitely something that, was that I was very willing to do. And, cause I want to be on the field. I mean, that's, if I can create more opportunities for myself and anything to help the team win and to provide for anything that, the team that I can go in the outfield or in the infield, that's definitely something that I want to be able to do. So I think, improving in the outfield, and, it's definitely something that I've been working on all year with, Arnie and our bench coach here, Matt Malott. He's been, helping me a lot in West Michigan. We had, bench coach Timmy Garland, who was helping me a bunch, just with the routes and situations in the game and arm strength and really everything that goes into the outfield. I've definitely been improving, and that's something that, going into this offseason, that I really want to improve on. I really want to become, a very solid and good defender out there, for sure.
For those who may not know the process, what is it like in terms of trying to improve in the outfield? I know a lot of guys like to get those live reads and BP. Of course, there's just getting those jumps, and you mentioned the routes, but it's one thing to say, oh, this is what you need to do. But what's the process like of improving it? And you're going to do in the off season as well, but doing it throughout the season. What does the improvement process look like for a player who's still getting reps in the outfield?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, like you said, getting live reads off the bat and batting practice is, I think, the most important thing. Really taking, that batting practice serious, and, not killing yourself and wearing yourself down in batting practice, but, really getting some live jumps off of the bat. And, there's obviously, some smaller drills with some footwork and, some stuff like that. But I think the biggest thing is getting live reads off the bat in batting practice. I mean, that's the most game-like you're going to get before the game. And I think, being able to get good jumps out there is definitely going to translate to the game and help you come game time.
You mentioned outfield defense and just continuing to hone in on that as an off-season focus. What other off-season focuses do you have as we move into what was, of course, an awesome year for you, and now you have a chance to either maybe finish this year in AAA or get the chance to start in AAA next year? What are some focuses ahead of that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I want to improve, like we were just talking, defense, and everything that comes along with that, arm strength, mobility, speed, agility, everything like that. Because I think you can always improve on that no matter what position, but I think specifically in the outfield, that's something that I want to improve on. And then, obviously I want to continue to improve, I guess hitting wise, I want to continue to improve on that higher velocity. I think that's something that, the more that I can train that and the more that I can get better at that, I think, the slower, the game will happen while you're in the batter's box. I think that's, the slower you can create the game and in the batter's box, the better off you're going to be. And definitely not trying to get the game to not speed up on you. And I think going into the offseason, physically with hitting and everything, that's something that I want to focus on as well.
To wrap up, what kind of player do you see yourself being at the highest level? Because there's a lot of different things you do well. You've got the bat to ball ability. Again, the approach has continued to get better, and now you're working on that outfield defense and going from a first base profile to now a guy that's grinding it out there in both corners. What kind of player can Tigers fans look forward to getting here with Justice Bigbie? Because I know that Tigers fans are very, very excited about what you've started to do and what you're building here throughout your minor league career already.
Yeah, I mean, and I think at least for me, I want to be, kind of the player that can really I want to be able to do anything that I can do to help, whatever team that I'm on, whether, anywhere in the organization. I want to be the player and the teammate and the person that can help the team win. And I think that's something that I want to pride myself on, and I want to do anything that I can do, to win the game and to help us win games and anything I can do.
I love it. Well, you're doing a good job of that so far this year. I mean, if you're hitting the way you're hitting, you're definitely helping your team win ball games. And it's been awesome to see you do that, man. Congratulations on an awesome year, and looking forward to see you continue building on that as you progress here through the rest of your career and the rest of this season.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on.
Of course.